swish and don't poke anybody's eye out, because these are actually quite dangerous objects, you know? Hi guys, it's Leanne and I am back today for a magical video. I am very excited, to talk to you guys about my TBR for the N.E.W.T.s readathon that is going on in August. This is the second magical readathon that has gone on this year. You can see how I did in my owls up here. I was pretty freaking proud of myself, so I was proud of myself. But now it's time for the N.E.W.T.s. In case you have no freaking idea what I am talking about, I will link below the wonderful book roast video where she talks all about how this readathon works. But essentially, earlier in the year, we as a bookish booktubey community collectively sat our owls and hoped that we got enough to specialise in the subjects that would later make our careers. And now it's time for us to do our N.E.W.T.s and to just hope that we get high enough grades to become the things that we want to be. Basically, I want to be a cross between this, and possibly this. I want to be a Hogwarts professor. I am going to be teaching care of magical creatures because that's basically my unpaid existence currently. 4 dogs, 4 cats, no children. It all evens out, trust me. Like any sensible Hogwarts student, however, I do have a backup career. So if I can't be a professor at Hogwarts, it's a very lofty goal, and teach care of magical creatures, I am going to be a magizoologist like this person that we all know. And if that doesn't work out, I'm gonna work in a drudgy office in the ministry, filing bits of paper which stop there from being trucks on my roads. I mean, really, infinite rudeness. I will work in a stuffy office that I have to get to through standing in the toilet, which I think is a great metaphor for working in offices, by the by. And I will file things that make people not be able to have illegal creatures and mistreat them because animals are better than humans, okay? So to teach care of magical creatures at Hogwarts, I require an outstanding, which means that I will have to do all 3 of the prompts for care of magical creatures. So the first prompt that we have is follow the spiders. Why couldn't it be follow the butterflies? Book title that starts with the letter A for Aragog, and for that I have chosen A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen. This is my favourite Ibsen play in the entire world. I have loved it since I studied it in university, and I have recently picked up an audio play version of it that I am so excited for. It's a cast audio, it has music, it has sound effects. I'm there for it. In case you didn't know anything about this play, it follows a woman in Victorian times who is steadily working out that her husband, who clearly has some form of mental health issue or depression, can't possibly shoulder the entire household's worth of worries, and that she is somehow going to sort out all of their financial woes and everything else. And then she discovers exactly what secrets do to a marriage, and it very much was an early commentary on not just feminism and the female's role in the home, but also it was a massive comment on the way that women are not acknowledged to be a whole person unless they are subject to their husband. So that would be my acceptable. My E for exceeds expectations will be a book under 300 pages, and for that I have picked Magic Bites by Ilona Andrews, mostly because it was on my pause reading shelf and a certain person who may be my podcast partner in crime went, freaking read it right now, Leon. So I'm going to. I've talked about this one quite recently, but I'll give you a very short synopsis of it just in case you haven't seen it and you're not au fait with it. Magic Bites is the introduction to the Kate Daniels universe. It is an urban fantasy novel that follows Kate Daniels, who is a mercenary and sort of a fixer in a world where when the magic is up, no technology, nothing works. Planes, trains, automobiles, nothing works. And when the magic is down, all of the technology works, but things have slipped across from the magical realm into ours and now have to be dealt with. And that's what Kate does. And then in this one, very early on, she is told that someone who was weirdly close / not close to her, I will leave you to discover details about that on your own, has died, and she wants to find out exactly why that happened. Sounds like a girl after my own heart, although she's never going to replace Mercy Thompson in my life. I don't care how good she is, she's never going to be Mercy. And then finally, for my outstanding, I love this prompt, grab onto Fox's tail, read a book with a bird on the cover. Turns out there were no books that I wanted to read initially that like jumped out at me with books with birds on the too many bees, flying things, and I tried to convince myself that a couple of things may vaguely have been the shape of birds, but no, and so I had to go raking through my shelves and I found something that I'm very excited about. This is A Rising Man by Arbir Mukherjee, and it is the first in a series of kind of crime novels set in 1919, I think, beginning in Calcutta in India. Captain Sam Wyndham was looking to just be a conqueror with an easy life, and then he falls out of favour and he is bumped down to the local police station. There he is paired up with Sergeant Surrender Not Banerjee, who is very familiar with the area but not necessarily with British practices. And then murders happen, but unfortunately they are not murders in Maryhill like on Taggart. They are murders which you know, take place down back alleys and happen to be politicians, which could literally get Sam killed. Whoops! Like I said, this is the first in a series, so I'm hoping that I fly through this. Apparently it is both really fast paced and super funny, and I just give me it. I miss reading crime fiction that I actually like. I love all sorts of other things, cozy crime and thrillers and mysteries, etc, etc, but I've become very jaded about the crime genre and what it has to offer, so I'm hoping that this one kind of reverses that one for me. To become a Hogwarts professor, I also need an E in Defence Against the Dark Arts, which, I mean, makes sense, right? Makes sense, so I can cover it when, you know, other teachers have died or been taken away or not been allowed to have the post that they want. So for that I need a book that is black under the dust jacket, and I'm going to be reading Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane, which is most definitely black under the dust jacket, which is a little bit disappointing because I was hoping it was going to have the leaf embossed on it, but that's okay, that's alright. I put up with it because it's Dennis Lehane. Like, he can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. I feel really guilty about this book. It's been sitting on my shelves in hardback since it came out, literally since it came out, and I have not touched it. Several times I have mentioned it and said I'm going to put it on my TBR, and it goes on the TBR but it goes on the end and I never get to it, so gonna have to get to it this time or can't live in Hogwarts. And I mean, realistically, Hogwarts is in Scotland, so it wouldn't be that much of a commute for me to get there, and it would be ideal. This one is it's kind of a domestic thriller, and you guys know exactly how I feel about domestic thrillers recently. Like, no, Mary, no. But it's Dennis Lehane, and that changes everything because I trust him. I trust him so freaking much. I trust him so much. And this one is a weird kind of reversal on the trope anyway. So Rachel has a complete breakdown, and not just in her marriage but in her life. She has a complete and total breakdown. She cannot handle the world anymore, and her husband has to very slowly build her back up to 100% and get her back into the world. Rachel trusts her husband completely. She has told him everything that there is to tell about her. He knows all of her secrets. But now that she's 100% again, she's starting to suspect that things are a little bit off. He is behaving very, very mysteriously, and now she's starting to wonder, was she the only one with secrets in that relationship? I don't think so. And now for my excellent. The prompt is Gilderoy's Memory Charm. The first book that you remember right now from your TBR, and that is Nevernight by J. Kristoff, because Amy and Jay are never far from my brain. And so this one is going on to my TBR. It was on my TBR and I actually started it. I think I got basically to just about chapter 2 and I wasn't in the mood for a fantasy and I didn't want to ruin it because I wasn't in the mood, so I popped it aside and now I'm ready to get back to it. So essentially, Mia Corvair is an orphan. She has lost everything and everybody and in very violent ways. And she has decided that she would like to fix that, i.e. with a spot of revenge. However, she realises that she is not quite equipped to carry out any kind of revenge quite yet, and so she ends up going to the Red Church for training. Turns out that the Red Church train assassins, so that's the perfect place for Mia, isn't it? Also, it features a talking shadow cat called Mr. Knightley, so I mean, really, what else do you need? Now, next up, I also need to achieve an acceptable in 2 other random subjects of my choice, I'm assuming, so that I can cover other people's classes when they are ill, because realistically, Hogwarts professors must get ill at some point. So for the first one, I have chosen Ancient Runes, and that prompt was N.E.W.T.s, which stands for partnership. A read recommended by a friend. Now, when I told my lovely podcast partner in crime, Kirsty, that I needed something to fill the Lockwood-sized gap in my soul, she recommended The Enemy by Charlie Higson, which is essentially about a group of kids who are in a supermarket when the world ends because of a zombie apocalypse. Shh, Crowley Tummy definitely likes the idea of being trapped in a supermarket. Can I get a hell yeah? Hell yeah. Anyway, they are trapped in this supermarket and on the surface it looks like they have pretty much everything that they might need to survive. But then you have to factor in people and the fact that people are assholes and nothing was ever going to go right and it kind of turns Lords of the Fliesy. And yes, I will read this. And then I have decided to get an acceptable in charms, although realistically I think I would probably get a little bit of a higher in acceptable. Just saying. Although maybe not, because depth perception might be needed for charms to not poke other people's eyes out. But never mind. And the prompt for that is read a book that you think has a gorgeous cover. So I'm going to be buddy reading this one with Kirsty, of course I am. And this is The Paragon Hotel by Lindsay Fay. You might remember Jane Steele and how much I freaking loved Jane Steele, which is also written by Lindsay Fay. So this is a no-brainer. Also, can we just take a moment for the beautiful object that is this book? Look at it. This is about Alice, and Alice turns up in Oregon with a bullet wound and a lot of money and some experience with the mob, and she needs somewhere to hide. She makes friends with a black porter who leads her to the Paragon Hotel, which turns out to be an all-black hotel in a city which is, how do they put it, a Jim Crow city. And its lodgers seem unduly terrified of a white woman on the premises. I wonder why. And this book is not only about Alice and her very weird set of circumstances, but also about all of the other residents of the Paragon Hotel, and I need it in my life right now. I just need it right now. I might read this one first, that would be stupid, but I want it! And you know what? I was going to give you a list of all of the other things that I would potentially have to do if I failed at that, but I am not going to fail. I am going to go into my N.E.W.T.s with a positive mental attitude, but just in case I do have a backup list of other books. Yeah, I do, I really do. So on that cheery note, that is my stack for the month. I'm going to just simply work through them in the order that I gave you them, which is kind of prompt order rather than doing a traditional stack it, which, in case you're new here, is where I make a stack of books and I work through them from the start to the finish. I don't skip, I don't switch, and if I can't read one or I'm not in the mood for reading one, it gets on hold, because obviously if I'm not in the mood for it now, when am I going to be in the mood for it? I have a lot of books. Are you taking part in the N.E.W.T.s readathon? If you are, please tell me about it in the comments. Please tell me what you've chosen for your career. And if you haven't chosen a career, What are you planning to independently specialise on when we all get our Hogwarts letters? You must tell me. Are you also a fellow magical creature enthusiast? What is your favourite? I also want to know that. And if you're not taking part in the N.E.W.T.s this month with the rest of the world, then what are you going to be doing with your reading month? Tell me that in the comments too. I think I could borrow the time turner. Bye guys!